I want to go it now into some of the rules of the game and your interpretation of the rules of the game. As we said earlier that, the basic understanding obviously is not there for the majority. So we want to try to add to help the average citizen, with the understanding the rules of the game.
Sure.
So let's talk about some of the rules of the game. Which rule change over the course of your career have you think has benefited the game the most? Like over the course of your career, because that's a lot of times that's the issue, right? Is that the fan know the game from when they were small, and then they know the rules from when they were small. But then when they're watching the game as an adult or as a teen or as a elderly person, they're watching the game through the lens of those old rules. So during the course of your time, there, what rules do you think what changes in the rules do you think works best? Or what rule changes over the last, I would say, 10 years benefited the game the most?
Yeah, I could start with the biggest one, and that would be the addition of the video assistant referee to the game.
VAR, yeah.
That has the biggest impact because it allows the referee to have a second look at an incident and take a better informed decision. And that for me has the biggest impact. I think it will help us because it will allow greater accuracy in some of our decisions and probably more credibility in that, maybe the referee didn't see first time, but then he gets a second look and maybe fans can accept, well, all right, he saw it on the clip, he saw the video. I mean, some decisions will still be protested, but at least you get that better acceptance. Also, within the last 10 years, there were a lot of rewording and clarifications. So I know sometimes people see the word change and think the law dramatically changed.
Right.
And you'll see that in terms of the handball law. What happened with the handball law is they made a lot of clarifications. They did make some changes in terms of, you'll see attacking handball, meaning if it touches the attacker hand accidentally and goes into the goal, it will be disallowed because the lawmakers decided they wanted to remove that from the game, meaning no handball goal like Maradona.
Right.
Anytime it touches the hand, goes straight in the goal.
And that constitutes unfair advantage. That constitutes an unfair advantage from the handball.
To them, and probably to the world, because they try to make the rules that is acceptable to the universe. Because every time you make a rule, sometimes some people don't like it, some people don't like it. But for the general public, you try to get a feeling or a sense of what football needs or what football expects.
Right.
And that law is just their interpretation. The way it's written is their interpretation of how it should be. So it was changed within the past 5 years, meaning there was a time where if it touches the attacker handball, it goes to somebody, then maybe dribble a little bit and scores, they'll still disallow it. Now they realize, let's not sweat that so much. Let's make it more blatant. If it directly goes, disallow. But if it touches the hand accidentally and then maybe goes to another player, like what's the impact of that? So they allow that. Right. So it does have a lot of feeling to laws as well.
Yeah, obviously.
In the laws of the game, they actually mentioned something called the spirit of the law. So that is where these feelings and these emotions kind of dictate how the judgment of the decision is.
Right.
But with the handball and specifically, they made a lot of clarifications. They actually did a diagram to dictate where the hand is or where the hand starts and stops, where the ball could touch and where we can see the hands on it. That was never done before. So that was added to the laws to help the referees and also to clarify to the public that, you know, if it touches on his shoulder, upper shoulder, upper chest.
Yeah, upper shoulder. Yeah, it's fine.
Not handball, but
from here, from the sleeve, right?
From close to the sleeve, below the
From the
armpit.
sleeve, yeah.
Once that section, they draw a diagram and clarify that, and also clarified the unnatural and natural position.
Body position of the hand, yeah.
Body position. They did a clarification. I know they made that change, and people still think that's the only thing that matters. There's still a lot to handball. So if you go in the book, you'll see unnatural is just 1 point. There's still other points, meaning a deliberate handball is always if it's not the goalkeeper within his penalty area, is a handball. So it doesn't matter natural. If the referee determines there's a deliberate, meaning the hand is moving towards the ball, deliberately, then it's always a handball. So that never changed, but they did clarify the other aspects of handball, meaning natural, and other aspects to that law. And they are changing stuff in offside. In the past couple of years, they made some changes. The offside law is a very short law. If you look at it, it's like 1 or 2 pages, and the meat of it is really just a line or a couple lines. But the whole interpretation of offside is where a lot of people get lost and confused with it. So I can spend like a whole day probably explaining offside, but
you talking about just handball and stuff, and I'm like, I could talk all night. I have so many questions. I have so many things about it. I was like,
we can really go in depth, because that's why we do a lot of sessions, reviews. Every time there's a law change, we review the changes. We do a lot of work behind the scenes, and it's really interesting to understand the laws to that level. But
I wanna just go to you mentioned VAR, and I've always been on the fence about VAR, because I understand its necessity and stuff, but I also believe in the humanity of it. As you said earlier, the referee is a person, and I always quote Gianfranco Zola, when they were first trying to introduce VAR. He said the mistake of the referee is as much a part of the game as the mistake of the forward who misses a goal, or the mistake of the goalkeeper who lets the goal in, or defender. It is part of the humanity of the game now. And I'm glad that, you know, the rules try to implement, as you said, the spirit of it, and that tries to keep it as warm as possible without the coldness and the harshness of a computer, basically. Because I always said that, like, you know, with VAR, there's a danger of it going to strict FIFA mode, where it's just like, this is a hand, is a hand, is a hand, is a hand, or is a offside, or is a foul, is a foul, is a foul, and there's no spirit in it, there's no humanity in it. It's just cold and calculated, and it's just Do you think that there's a fear of FIFA, or a concern, or a consideration taken to make sure that there is that human element in the decision making at all times?
So I think there is that consideration, because you see it within the implementation of VAR. VAR is not meant to take over the game. It's just meant to interject with key decisions. So they actually pull out the key decisions, and only in those cases VAR will intervene. And generally it's goals, penalties, and red cards. There's 1 or 2 other little things, but the main things are those 3 things. So only in those instances, and these are the instances that people deem critical, will VAR intervene.
Yeah, because who decides then when we go into VAR? When are we going to VAR?
Yeah. So there's a protocol on VAR as well, and it has to be followed. And it's meant to be minimally invasive. So ideally, in an average game, you might see 1 VAR review, or you might see none, because that would mean all the decisions the referee made were not critically game changing or detrimentally game-changing, meaning it resulted in a goal that shouldn't have been a goal. It resulted in a red card that shouldn't have been a red card. Or it resulted in no card, it should have been a red card. So it has to be that critical error that a referee made. Which shouldn't be too often. Sometimes it might be 2 or 3 times in a game. But generally it could be no times in the game. So it's not meant to take over the game to that level as well. And as I said, there are protocols to follow, and the referee still, as the final say, the way VR was implemented, it was implemented in different ways. It started off with the referee making all the decisions. So even if the VR picked up something that needs to be looked at, and the way it's being done in CONCACAF now, the referee has to still go to the screen and review everything. But
I noticed
the second phase is different.
Yeah, I noticed the linesman. What I would like to commend mostly linesman referee association about is that y'all haven't, like, because I had a fear in me that y'all would have, like, linesmen would have gotten sloppier as a result now, as a more dependency on the VAR. But I find, in my opinion, at least, I find the decisions have been a bit sharper. Like it's actually sharper in the decision making. I don't know if you've noticed that as well.
Yeah, I noticed it as well. I'm looking at meals too, because I'm always impressed by these decisions. Even though I make some myself, and I'm even when I make it, I'm like, wow, look at that. It's correct.
Yeah. It's awesome.
But yeah, as I said, the decisions are rare. The game changing decisions are rare. So a top assistant referee will make the offside decision correct 99% of the time.
Most of the time.
99. And it's really for those tough, it has some situations that is even
fine line.
It's almost impossible for the human to get it correct. But generally we have rules to follow. Like if we have any doubt, we usually stay low. If it's really close, we try to not raise the flag, because we rather see more attacking football. So if it's tight, and you give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker, these things. And the VR also shows up now that when you have these reviews, it shows to the public how correct.
These calls,
And all the time we only see the assistant referee when they raise the flag up. What about when they keep the flag down? Because a lot of times a goal is scored and he could have raised the flag up.
It looks completely offside, but then
but he was correct. It was not offside. So these are showing up now, and that's good. I appreciate that improvement.
I agree with that. Well, as you're on the rules, last part about the rules here now. There's another thing that I'm on the fence about, but because I'm trying to keep an open mind about it. So recently we heard Arsene Wenger talk about it, as he's on the committee for the rules, implementing new rules and new changes and stuff for FIFA. And we've heard talk about new rules being implemented. And I personally feel that it may be necessary, as the game is becoming a little bit too predictable, a little bit too robotic. And, you're having a bunch of games. You recently had Euros that had a record for the amount of own goals in a major tournament and own goals deciding matches. And my sneaking suspicion that this is one of the main reasons for this, to make the game more entertaining, to push the game away from this kind of predictability and this kind of, I don't want to say negative football, but it's a very robotic style of football. But what do you think about some of the rule changes? So there's like dividing the game into 30-minute halves, unlimited substitutions, kick-ins, overthrow-ins. What do you think about it? Have you seen these suggestions, and what do you think about them?
Yeah, I'm keeping abreast of the possible changes and the suggestions. Every rule that came into football, they would have experimented in tournaments before.
Yeah.
So they actually getting to see how it works before they implement it. So all the rules that we see in the game today, only rule changes that we see. They actually did experiments before, and I am happy to see the game evolving. And I know some of these 30 minutes and unlimited subs, maybe flying subs, kind of resemble the more futsal approach as the, a faster game, But football, I have opinion. Football is different from futsal. It has its own uniqueness about it. I wouldn't like to see the two games being the same, but I would like to see they will definitely do suggestions, and they'll try different things. And when they try it for a year and they see it not working, then they'll probably go back to it. I am happy to see changes once they verify that is what the game needs and what players and the spectators. I think the most important part is the spectators. Once they are happy with the final output. So if they're happy with flying subs, so be it. Once they implement it properly, we can execute it.
It works for the universal benefit of the sport. I understand.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching Sayin Summ Sports. For more Trinbagonian sport content and other topical Trinbagonian content, please subscribe to our YouTube page and connect with us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Peace.